It is another edition of the CTJ report coming off the top rope. We're going to quickly go through SummerSlam, what happened last night at Raw, Brock Lesnar retires, and then my overall hatred of the IWC and this tribalism between WWE and AEW. But first, let's get into SummerSlam. So they had their two-night event over the weekend in Minneapolis, and overall, I thought it was a decent show. I think overall it was probably better than WrestleMania, but that's not saying much given how low the bar was for WrestleMania this year. Crowd-wise, I thought that they weren't really into it all the way. Now, a lot of that had to do with some of the match quality or just the matches in general. Didn't have that real big fight feel. But when they delivered, they really did deliver. And my three best matches were Io Sky versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. I thought that those two really had a really good match to start off SummerSlam. Nick Aldis versus Gunther was another match that I particularly enjoyed. Those of you who've never seen Nick Aldis, whether he was in TNA or whether he was carrying the belt and the promotion of NWA on his back, you really missed some fantastic character work and really good wrestling from Nick Aldis. But he was able to show you what he was able to do. And he really came in and gave Gunther a really good fight. Part of me wanted to see Nick Aldis go over to see Gunther really go over the edge. But at the end of the day, I think it was probably best for Gunther to go over. And then the third match that I thought really delivered was Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I mean, you get those two in the ring, it's going to deliver magic. This was no exception. I really liked how they did the match. They told an incredible story. It's a decade plus history between the two of them, stemming all the way back to their days from the Shield. And the way that they crafted and told that story and the way that they ended it was really beautiful to see. I like that it was done clean. I like that there were no outside interference. That was how you wanted that feud between Seth and Roman to end. Just like that, with the two at the end of the day begrudgingly showing mutual respect to one another. With the fist bump, letting you know that even though they were just blood rivals at one point, that at the end of the day, it all started back from that brotherhood of the Shield. So I really, really like that. Other things that I enjoyed over SummerSlam was the return of Kevin Owens. He was added to the match between Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. Gunther was added as a third participant, and then Nick Aldis, who was reinstated as general manager, decided to add one more person. And when Kevin Owens' music hit, that place erupted. It's great to see him back. I think with Kevin Owens winning that match, that this feud that he's going to have with CM Punk for the WWE title is just, it's going to do numbers. I have no doubt of that. The promos that those two are capable of doing, the wrestling that they're going to do for their matches, I think it's going to be outstanding. And I'm interested in seeing where WWE will lean. Do you put the title on Kevin Owens and let him hold it for a while? Or do you continue to allow CM Punk to hold the belt, knowing that there is probably going to be some standoff and another match with Roman, probably a crown jewel? Things I didn't necessarily like over the course of the weekend. I didn't like the Liv Morgan finish. I thought Io should have gone over, but that's just me. I'm a big Io stan, so, that's that. But Liv holding the belt going past SummerSlam will make sense once we start talking about Monday Night Raw. The other thing, Trick Williams losing the belt to Baron Corbin, I thought maybe it was a little too soon to take the belt off of Trick. Now, if this sets him up winning Money in the Bank in October, great. But if he just kind of flounders, in that mid-card scene and him having an extended feud with Baron Corbin, I don't think that's doing Trick any favors. He's one of your stars of the future. You got to let that man just continue to shine and put the rocket on him. I don't have a problem with Baron Corbin himself. I always thought he got the short end of the stick, during his initial run with WWE. He was your consummate heel. I thought they put him in some trash programs, some trash character work from time to time, but Baron Corbin is your consummate professional. I just don't think putting a belt on him and getting him the win over Trick was the right thing to do. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, that match was a bit disappointing given the caliber of those two wrestlers. That Punk failed moonsault is going to live in infamy. And, it happens to the best of them. But Punk going over was the right call. Randy coming in and interrupting, can set up a number of feuds down the line, whether Punk gets a shot at Randy, who knows? But yeah, the match I felt really didn't get into gear when Randy came in. Hit his RKO on Cody to help Punk get the win. Something just felt off with the two of them. And, those two were usually two really good performers who know how to tell stories in the ring. So I was a little surprised that they didn't deliver like you thought they would. And then, of course, there was no reason to have the Bellas match. We could see that turn from Nikki Bella coming from a mile away. That was a match you could have had on SmackDown. And honestly, there was really no reason for that particular match to be on the card. But that was SummerSlam, pretty much in a nutshell. But again, congrats to Chelsea Green, who ended up winning the interim women's title. That was a cool moment for her. A nice little dig that she had at Michael P.S.A.'s during the post-game interview. But congrats to Chelsea Green. And then congrats to Chad Gable, who was able to knock off Penta for the Intercontinental title. It'd be interesting to see where those two head next. Now, moving on to Raw. Not a lot happening. We did get a return of Big Cass, and yeah, don't really care about that. I don't know what type of impact that he's going to have, going forward. I don't think he'll have as big of an impact as Baron Corbin will. Because Baron Corbin, again, I like him and I like the way he wrestles and he does heel character work. I just was never sold on Big Cass outside of what he did with Enzo Amore. It appears, though, that we are going to get LA Knight versus Roman Reigns once more. Roman needs another challenger. You would think it should be Obafemi, but I understand what WWE is doing. They're saving that for WrestleMania. That is their money match. And now you have to find interesting ways to keep Oba busy and to keep Roman busy until you can get those two eventually to go head to head. Personally, I think they could go head to head before WrestleMania to have Oba lose and then have to go through the bloodline to eventually get to Roman at WrestleMania, have him win the Rumble. I think there are things that they can do, but it's going to be interesting to see if WWE can keep Oba white hot for the next 8-9 months before we get to that eventual money match with Roman Reigns. And then speaking of Liv Morgan, she came out, did her thing, talking about she's the greatest women's world champion of all time. And then Becky Lynch appears and cuts a scathing promo on the female members of the Judgment Day. And just as Liv thought she was about to get out scot-free, enter Stephanie Vicur. La Primera is back, and I, for one, am extremely happy. It's bolstering a women's division over on Raw that was pretty flat going into SummerSlam, and with both Becky and Stephanie Vicur back, it is going to liven up a women's division that's sorely in need of it. Both SmackDown and Raw's women's divisions were just sorely lacking in terms of really good storylines and feuds. And getting two key players back, I think, is definitely going to help that women's division thrive a little bit. Brock Lesnar ended up on Pat McAfee's show to announce his retirement. He is done. Officially this time. He was on there. He was very gracious to the WWE, TKO, really put over Obafemi. And I think Oba needed that rub from Brock Lesnar, and Brock was more than giving to give it to him. Say what you want about Brock Lesnar, and a lot can be said about him. He cared about the business, and when he wanted to really put someone over, he did. He, I think, really, really liked Obafemi, and I think that was the person that he wanted to, go out and do his last match with. He thought it was WrestleMania, but I think they, took him to the back and was like, hey, can we extend this to SummerSlam? And he was like, okay. But that's Brock showing Oba love at the end of their match and, grabbing the mic and saying, hey, I'm the past. This is the future, just really passing the baton to Obafemi. And that was pretty cool on Brock's part. So, man, within the last year, we've seen the retirements of AJ Styles, John Cena, and now Brock Lesnar. And finally, I have to kind of get this off because it's been bugging me for a really long time. This thing that WWE keeps doing where they try to put something up against AEW just needs to stop. It just has to stop. WWE is better than this. They're the number one promotion in the world, and they're the number one promotion in the world for a reason. They have the big time contracts with ESPN and other venues where they can showcase their talent. They don't need to do what it looks like they're getting ready to do. So, of course, AEW's All In is scheduled for August 30th over in London. That is their big show for that promotion. WWE will be running a show featuring AAA and NXT that same day. And if you caught the end of Raw last night, then you saw Roman as he finished doing his thing that he ran into Rey Mysterio, and they had a quick interaction. Rey said, hey, do you know that I'm the general manager of AAA? And Roman was like, I do now. And he was like, hey, let me holler at you. And they kind of walked off. Rumors may have Roman Reigns and CM Punk ending up in AAA for this upcoming show that they have running opposite of All In. And I just think it's a mistake. And it's a mistake to me because you're not going to sway people who are already invested in AEW to somehow miss their biggest show of the year to watch AAA. And conversely, you have those who are WWE fans who also watch AEW. And now you're, because out of spite and out of, just being petty, WWE wants to run a show opposite of All In. I think it's childish. This is the same Triple H that joked to Billy Gunn that that's a pissant company. Well, you're not treating it like it's a pissant company because it seems like every time AEW has a big show, you want to run something opposite to it. No, if you're the number one company, you shouldn't be worried about what they're doing. You should be worried about your own product and vice versa. But I think it just seems like WWE's doing a lot more of this than AEW is. And, WWE needs to knock it off. The other thing that needs to just stop is this tribalism. It's stupid. It's crazy. If you're a fan of professional wrestling, you can like more than one promotion. I like AEW. I like WWE. I like TNA. I like New Japan Pro Wrestling. As long as there's pro wrestling out there and it's giving you good content to watch, be a fan of it. This tribalism is beyond petty and childish and just stupid. Let me know what you think. I am CT. You can hit me up on TikTok, hit me up on Threads. I'm here on YouTube as well. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.